Welcome back, everyone, to Introspection. I'm your host, Amy Lindner Lesser, and I'm really happy and excited today to be able to bring you a special guest. My guest, Nika Stewart, is the best-selling author of Actually I Can, Rewriting the Rules of Resilience. I sometimes rewrite her title to Actually Yes I Can, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. She is a celebrated speaker known for her unique blend of humor, vulnerability, and insight. Her journey through cancer, documented virally and virtually online, has inspired millions nationwide, actually worldwide. Nika's message revolves around transforming adversity with positivity, laughter, and an unconventional approach. Her infectious energy and personal story of resilience make her a sought-after speaker for audiences seeking inspiration and practical strategies to embrace life's challenges with a smile. Welcome to Introspection, the podcast about moving from grief to growth. I'm Amy Lindner Lesser, your host. Introspection started out as a podcast about hospitality, innkeeping, and innkeepers. After about a year, I realized that my life and interests have morphed from hospitality to helping others navigate from grief and loss to growth and living. In this new version of Introspection, I will be talking about my personal experiences with loss, and there are quite a few, what I've learned along the way through my professional training, as well as from my coaching experiences. I'll also be bringing in guests to share interesting ideas. So grab a beverage, find a comfy place, take a deep breath, and listen in. That was one of the first things that attracted me to Nika and her story. For all of you who are familiar with me, you know that I believe what is essential to life, more than money, more than pretty much anything, is the ability to laugh. When I perform weddings, I usually tell the people I'm marrying that it's really important that they like each other. It's important that they can stand to look at each other every day. But the most important thing, the thing that's not going to go away ever, is the ability to make your partner laugh. And when I heard of Nika through some coaches that I work with and friends, I was so excited to get her book and read it and felt that we were kindred spirits. So I'm pleased to welcome Nika to Introspection.
Oh my gosh, we are kindred spirits. I feel it too.
I was so excited. I remember seeing Nettie Owens, who is both a friend and a coach of mine, as well as Molly, as well as Andrea Matapastista. And I'm like, they're all your friends. How do they know about you? And then Nettie, I think, posted your book. And I saw it and I was like, okay, I got it on my Kindle. I'm reading it. And it was wonderful
Oh, thank you.
and very inspiring.
I'm so glad. Thank you. I mean, I felt like what I went through, how I handled what I went through, my cancer journey was helpful for me. But when I started sharing it, it actually was more helpful for me because when I saw that it helped other people, that fueled me and made the journey easier. So that would be just a suggestion I like to throw out is if you're going through something tough, share it because how you handle it will be inspiring to other people, no matter how you handle it. We all need to figure out ways to handle challenges. And so please share your challenges.
That's sort of how introspection came about. That my late husband and I were innkeepers. We were social workers first. When his mother passed away and left him money, he's like, I'm miserable. I don't want to do this anymore. We've always talked about being innkeepers. Let's do that.
Wow.
So he quit his job, went to the restaurant school in Philadelphia, and then 2 years later, we found ourselves up in the Berkshires with a 20-room inn. And 2.5 years later, he died. So I continued the business. And then what happened was I was approached in December of 2020 and sold the inn. Like 1, 2, 3, it was sold. And I started coaching innkeepers and found that innkeepers, like many, are people pleasers, and they didn't want to spend money on taking care of themselves. They just wanted to take care of others.
Yeah.
And then my best friend died. And that was the impetus for me to take my story and help other people. And that's how I got into grief coaching and loss coaching, and have learned that, like you, when we can find things to laugh about and things to be positive about, they turn all kinds of things upside down.
Yeah. And I think that it's hard for a lot of people to not only to find, like I say, find the funny. I believe there is funny in everything. I sometimes think, is it disrespectful? Or I think that people say, is it disrespectful to laugh at something that is grief? And laughing at other people's grief, of course, that's disrespectful. But finding the humor in our situations is only good. Like that's positive. And we are allowed to. We need to give ourselves permission to find the humor in what we are going through. I don't speak about death because that wasn't my experience, but I certainly had grief and loss. For me, it was losing, I lost my breasts and then I lost my hair. And for me, those happened to be the two things that were my identity. I was the girl with the big, beautiful breasts. Like that's who I believed I was. And I had big, full, long, very long hair. And that was who I was. Like that was my identity. And when I found out those two things were going away, of course, that was a loss. So that's my experience and what I share, finding the funny in all of that. And I'm so happy, delighted that when I laughed at myself and I created posts online and videos and then my book, and other people were able to laugh along and it gave them permission to find humor. Again, that's that like vicious, not vicious, but the opposite of vicious cycle. Like it's a beautiful circle that keeps the joy going and the inspiration.
Just some of the things that you went through and how you were able to twist them or turn them into the positive. I know in the book you talked about buying your first wig, and with the photographs of trying different things on and what works, what doesn't work, what's hysterical.
Yeah. And I think, we all go through challenges, and if we want to share them, we share them. It just is so much easier and more fun when you share it with the humor. So yeah, so it's the difference between saying like, which wig should I get, this short one or this long one? Or like, what if I just get this big giant hot pink wig with bangs that like that I would never, like this is so not me, and laugh at myself, and other people then can laugh with me. It's just sharing it in a funny way.
And it does take, first of all, it gives you control of the situation. And going through a diagnosis of breast cancer in both breasts, and you went through really bad misdiagnoses, and people telling you, oh, it's not much of anything, to it's a hell of a lot worse than what we thought at the beginning. To be able to have control in that, when you give up so much control to the doctors and the nurses, and you know and you don't have to be a victim when you take control.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up control, because for me, I believe the number one way I was able to get through this difficult situation of cancer, and it really wasn't the cancer that was the journey. It was the treatment, and the treatments that are still going on, have lasted a few years. The treatments were a lot harder than just actually having cancer. The number one way I was able to get through that, and then because I identified this philosophy, I now use it in every challenge. Like I stub my toe and I use this philosophy. It works with everything. And the philosophy really is that we do not have control of so many things, like you're saying. We can't control what someone else does. We can't control the weather. We can't control if a disease enters our body, but we absolutely have 100% control over the thoughts that we choose and the feelings that we choose. We choose our thoughts that lead to the feelings. That doesn't mean we should choose happy all the time. In the beginning of my diagnosis and misdiagnosis, I chose anger and impatience because I needed to get appointments for things. And most people were saying, yeah, we have an appointment in 3 to 6 months. I might be dead then if you don't see me. So I'm not going to just be happy. I am going to be impatient and angry until I get what I need. But the point is, it is your choice. You can choose, and I choose sadness some days because it feels good to lay in bed and cry. And it is your choice.
Definitely. And what you alluded to is that there are so many emotions that come up. And that's whether you have a diagnosis of a disease or not. Emotions just happen. And our society is absolutely terrible with expressing anything but joy and happiness. And they're not the only emotions. And because of that, the people we love may not be able to handle when we're feeling down or angry or depressed, and unwittingly tell us to just get over it. We need to feel it. We need to go through and feel it.
And as you're saying it, I'm thinking, they are saying, feel better, be happy. They have goodness in their heart. They don't want you to feel pain. But it isn't helpful to say to someone, for me, it's anger. Like I often will feel angry, and all I need to do is feel angry for a few moments and then I'm done. But when people say, stop being angry, or what are you so angry about? Then the anger lasts a lot longer and I feel more terrible. Let people feel their emotions.
And the anger sometimes gets directed at the person.
Exactly.
It wasn't about you.
Exactly. Yeah.
One of my guests, and I unfortunately at this moment can't think of who it was. Oh, I think it was Marcy Hawkins. We were talking about empty nest syndrome. But one of the things that she mentioned was that it takes 90 seconds to fully feel an emotion. That's it. A minute and a half. And if we would just have enough patience with ourselves and with others to let that go through our systems, we would then move on. It doesn't mean it goes away forever, because it doesn't, but it's 90 seconds.
That is so helpful. I appreciate you saying that.
And that's even for the happiness, when you're laughing hysterically with somebody else and you can't catch your breath or you're peeing in your pants, that also is 90 seconds. It's nothing lasts forever. And it's a good reminder to stay in the moment, feel it fully, and then move on to the next thing.
Amazing. Yeah. And I think that's really good advice for all of us to like allow other people, because we're talking as if it's everyone else but us. Obviously, we do it too. Like, oh, stop that anger or stop being sad. Let's remember to allow other people those feelings.
Yeah. And it's when it doesn't end after, and 90 seconds is not, okay, you've had 90 seconds, stop. But, if you're doing it an hour and a half later, then maybe there is an intervention that needs to happen. But to make sure the intervention is for the other person and not for you.
Yeah. Yes. And I think obviously grief does not last just 90 seconds. But so that, and I'd love to hear more about that too, because it's emotions may take 90 seconds to fully form and then we can get through them. Grief is different. And I'm not a grief counselor and coach. So this I put out to you. I see grief as more of, I don't know, is it an emotion or is it more than that?
It is an emotion. However, it's also a response, and it's it's something that never goes away. Grief for a loss, whatever that loss is, whether it's for the loss of a person, the loss of a future, the loss of an image of yourself, loss of a dream, loss of a job. I mean, some losses are easier than others. However, when it's because you loved the relationship you had, that relationship no longer exists, there's always going to be some grief. It may not be 24/7. It may, you may be able to have months and months, even maybe a year without feeling it at all. And then something will trigger and the grief will come back. And that's okay. That, if you can come to a completeness with the grief as much as possible, meaning you've expressed the anger for losing it. You've expressed the sadness. You've been able eh, to give an apology to yourself, but for the other person. Like
Mm.
maybe mom, I'm sorry that I acted out and made you so angry that you did this back to me. That kind of thing. So that you can say things and live without the regrets. That in fewer times and less frequent times that'll come up. It will always come up, and especially around anniversaries. I don't know if you experience it, but whether on the anniversary of learning that you had the breast cancer, or of the first surgeries, or even the anniversary of ringing the bell,
Yeah.
do you end up having a reaction? Sometimes we don't even realize that those are important anniversaries.
Hmm. Yeah. I you're saying that, and I think that when the grief and the emotions come up later, what we tend to do is say, "Why are we feeling this way? It's been so long. I should be over this by now." And yet, it often feels harder, I've noticed, the more time goes on. Yeah, so yes, I see what you're saying is that it doesn't ever disappear, and again, I feel we need to give ourselves permission to feel, and it isn't wrong to feel worse later or whatever you feel is never wrong. And it's different for every person. I mean, people often say to me what you went through because I have described the challenges that I went through. But a lot of people say it must have been so difficult for you. And I honestly can say my cancer journey and treatment journey has been difficult, but more physically difficult than emotionally difficult. When my daughter, you mentioned empty nesting, my daughter, my only child, left for college a year ago. I've had a much harder year than I did during cancer a few years ago. Everybody is different. Um, and for me, the physical challenges were extremely difficult, but emotionally, it wasn't as difficult as my daughter leaving for school. And disappointments and worrying about her, and that is certainly in my life has been more difficult. Again, we need to get and because I had gone through and realized this philosophy of choosing our emotions, I realized after a few months last year that I was trying to fight the sadness instead of choosing sadness until it felt better. And once I realized I was doing that, I started feeling better. So I love that you said, feel the feeling. I wasn't allowing myself to feel the feeling.
You brought up something about how every, I'm going to say loss, And sometimes it's not necessarily a loss or a perceived loss, but every loss is different and we respond differently. And two people having the same loss. So you and your daughter's father both experienced her going to school. And yet, I guarantee the two of you reacted very differently. It could be two siblings losing the same parent, but our relationships are different as individuals. We also bring our own experiences into things. So, depending on what else had been going on in our own lives, we respond differently. When one parent dies one time and another time, completely different, yet they're both our parents. And the one thing that I have learned with myself and with clients is that it's so important to give ourselves grace and to stop telling ourselves and judging ourselves when we're not where we think we should be. I just recorded a podcast about the 5 stages of grief and the fact that they're basically bullshit. That there's no better way. They're BS. That they were they were written and devised to help a terminal cancer or terminal patient understand what was going to happen to them, or for medical personnel to understand, not for the person who's going to be left with the loss.
Right.
And so to think that we're going to go through things in this very orderly set of stages, we may not have one of the stages. We may spiral. For the most part, life is a spiral.
Yeah.
We go and then we come back and then we go a little further, maybe, or maybe not. It's
Yeah.
until we've dealt with what we need to deal with, we keep coming back to the lessons that we need to learn.
Yeah. And you're saying, and I like that you said it's bullshit. I believe all rules and all systems that people come up with are made up. Like all of the rules are made up and they will work for some people and they will not work for everyone. You don't have to follow the rule. When I got my cancer diagnosis, I was put on this conveyor belt with everyone else who got a diagnosis like that. And here's what you do. The conveyor belt moves along. You make up an appointment with a doctor. You wait too long to get an appointment. You join a support group with other people who are going through what you're going through. You feel a certain way. You do certain things. And because you get a cancer diagnosis for the first time in your life and you don't know what to do. It's not like you learn what to do in your life until it happens. And so you do what the doctors and the support groups tell you to do. None of it worked for me. I felt worse instead of better emotionally from all of the things that were part of the rules. And so I made up my own rules for me. And that's the only way. And I actually had the most joyous year of my life during chemotherapy and radiation. I honestly can say that because it was like forced me to look for the funny and look for the joy and look for happy things, look for laughter. And I have to remind myself now I'm having a regular day. Why not look for the laughter and joy today too? So sometimes loss or difficult situations force us to look for ways to be happier in life. I don't wish anyone to have a difficult situation, but because they are part of life, why not use them to make life better?
Do you have any suggestions for people for how to find them? How do you take somebody who tends to think mostly on the woe is me, pity party, this is awful?
Yeah. E- a few things. Number one, you do have to remember that the the situation, the circumstance that you cannot change. We spend too much time trying to change what is not changeable. So the thing that cannot change is there. That's a fact. Everything else is your choice. So, this thing that has happened, stop trying to change the thing, change your thoughts and change your feelings. And one thought that when I say thoughts, one of the things that I like to say is think of questions that make you think good thoughts. And one of my favorite questions to ask myself that helps me come up with good thoughts and good emotions is what if this situation was actually happening for me? And I know that's weird. Like, obviously, my best friend just passed away. That is not good. Okay, let's just step back for a moment. What if this situation was happening for you? What if there actually is meant to be something good for you? And good and bad are opinions. So it's not like you could say this is bad or this is good. What if it was happening for you? What and what words and thoughts start coming into your mind? What I have to come up with, just keep asking yourself, what if this was happening for me? Then ideas start to come out, maybe not immediately, but what if I was meant to lose my hair? I mean, I really, honestly, I feel like as we're talking, that was the easiest thing in the world. I had it easy. All I did was lose my hair. That's not a real loss because it can come back. I mean, it was a loss of my identity. I give myself permission to say I had loss. But I also know that my loss may not compare to other people's losses. But anything that happens to you, if you continue to ask yourself, what if this actually was meant for something good? What might that be? And search for it. And don't give up until you find something. And it can be as simple as now, I was always wanted to try an edgy short haircut and dye a strand purple, but I was too, I didn't feel brave enough. Well, I'm forced to be brave and have, a buzzed head for a few months. And, like, I don't know, that's silly, but it's what if this was meant for me? Come up with the answer.
I agree, because one of the things that I do is I talk about finding silver linings. And I do believe that there is a silver lining to everything. And as you said, it may take quite a while to come up with it. It's not necessarily revealed to us immediately. What you're talking about is the difference between like a negative, fixed mindset and a thriver mindset, one where, you're not being a victim anymore. Things aren't happening to you or because of something you did. They're happening because they're a gift to you, and figure out how to take that gift. When my husband died, he died 2 days before my 43rd birthday. And I remember thinking, he didn't die on my birthday. Thank you, Steve. And that was the first gift that I could see. The second gift was that our kids were at camp, and two of the counselors drove them the 2.5 hours home. So they were with somebody or somebodies who were supportive of them, and they were there, and that they didn't have to see him suffer in his last few days of life. Again, thank you.
Yeah.
And then that I knew, because it was what I chose to believe, that Steve would have wanted me to celebrate my birthday. And so 2 days later, I went out to dinner, very much, against the typical practices of my religion. I'm Jewish and you sit Shiva and you don't do anything like that. And I'm like, no, I'm 43 years old. I don't believe that I was meant to be cocooned and miserable. And so my mother and some dear friends and my kids and I went out to dinner that night, and we celebrated. Those were the lessons. And then later on, I realized that the lesson I was also meant to learn was to live on my own and to enjoy my own company. I always, as an only child, wanted to be around other people. And I love being around other people. And I now can choose to be alone because I love being with me. So those are, taking some of the yuck and turning it into spun gold.
Wow. Yeah. So you're an inspiration.
Thank you. I'm not trying to be. I'm just, for me, I'm trying to make the best of every situation and find a reason. So, what's the next one? You said find the positive.
Yeah. So choose that thought or ask yourself questions that lead to good thoughts. Um, the other thing is, I came up with my own 5 stages of grief, which weren't, which were not stages, but ideas of to help when you're going through a challenging situation. And a lot of it is similar to what you're saying, like turn the yuck into yum. I say turn wine into shine. Not drinking wine, turn WHINE. And maybe turn wine into wine. That might be helpful. But there is, uh, if you look for it, there is always that silver lining. If you look, there is always something funny in your situation. For me, when I had first lost my hair and I kept doing things to reach up for my hair. I kept like I put on a shirt and I would take the hair out of the back of my shirt and I would come out of the shower and I'd flip my head upside down to wrap my hair and there was no hair and I kept saying this is so funny. So I made videos about it. A bald person trying to style her hair. And that's what helped me go viral and people would laugh with me and say thank you for helping me, giving me permission to laugh at my situation. Laughter is, like you said, the absolute uh, best medicine. Would I have become now cancer free without the laughter? I don't know. I think it really helped the traditional medicine. I believe laughter improves any medication and improves life. And yeah, so laughter is your number one medicine to take today.
That's so true. So true. What was it that made you want to share it on Facebook? Your journey.
It started for me as a way to document for myself. I knew that when I got through the toughest parts, that I'd wanna look back at it. I kind of felt like in my life, there were things I had gone through that I wished I could look back on and remember what I was thinking or feeling. So I started just for myself recording my thoughts and recording kind of like a vlog, a video log of my day of, I went to the doctor today. Let me show you what the doctor's office looks like. Or I'm on my way to chemo and let me, like, I want to remember all this because I will forget. Um, and then my countdown, I had 16 session over 5 months. I had to go for chemotherapy. And I wanted to count it down because the first one was so difficult. I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get through 5 months of this. Like, I just honestly don't think I can. And by the way, one of the things that a coach had said to me at the time is your only job is to take care of yourself right now. And that is what changed my mindset. When I thought like I was in my worst despair, I guess, after my first chemotherapy session, like there's no way I can do this for 5 months. And when I realized that I don't have to do anything, I don't have to take care of my business, I don't have to take care of my family, like I don't have to worry about anything else but my health. And so I get to feel bad and just feel bad. Like I don't like I think what I was like, how am I going to get through 5 months of taking care of the world and my clients and everything and get through that? Well, when I realized I don't have to, that's when my mindset got better. So when you are feeling grief, feel it and just know you don't have to worry about anything else. But the countdown, so then when I started feeling a little better and I made a countdown, I was gonna video myself dancing, "Oh, one less chemo session, woohoo!" And I started getting creative, like, it wasn't just fun anymore to erase a tick on the board. What if I then did a trendy dance? What if and I started learning, like, fun things to do on video. So it was, for me, a creative outlet.
And you are a very creative person.
Well,
What
thank
what
you.
your bio didn't have me tell people is that you're a singer.
Yes. Yeah, and you don't have to be. For me, that because I enjoy that, that was my creative outlet. But creative outlets are vital, I believe, because it took my mind, it was like a respite. I could go to this place of creating a funny video and I would so my stress was, how am I going to get like this transition in the video? And so all my stress and worry were about this video, which allowed my body to relax about the cancer for an hour. And that I would do every day. And because, I started sharing, so my initial thought was document for me. And then I started sharing. And when people started reacting, that's what made me go, "Oh, other people are getting value from this as well," which makes me so happy, and that added more joy and more motivation to keep sharing and keep documenting, and that turned my whole journey into like the world came along. I have 400 million views from around the world, the people who are also enjoying the journey. So,
Wow. And what people don't realize, because we haven't mentioned it, was this was in the middle of COVID.
yeah.
I remember reading the part about how your husband had been so supportive and coming with you and being with you, and all of a sudden it was like, "Nope, you can't come."
Yeah.
That it must have been a wonderful feeling of having people you don't know and people you know be able to somehow be with you along the journey when they couldn't physically be with you.
Yeah, that's such a good point because I had planned in the beginning of chemotherapy, okay, I have 16 sessions. I'm going to invite my friends to play cards during one session. I'm going to have a party during one. And after the second session, oops, you have to be all alone and you have to wear mask and you can't bring in your pillow because it's from the outside. It has germs. And you're right, sharing it with originally strangers on the net, and then they all became my friends. It did help to go through it with other people.
And I'm sure it helped your husband also because he got some idea of what it was like to be with you during that. And I think often we forget about the other people in our lives who are going through their own journeys and are probably afraid to share because they don't want to burden you.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I truly felt like it was harder for everyone else for me. Like, I was like, "I'm so lucky to be the one going through this and not the one worrying about my loved one going through it."
Another silver lining, another positive thing out of a negative.
Yeah, totally.
You're such an inspiration,
Thank you.
to me. And, talking about this, most people don't know that I went through my own diagnosis. My cancer diagnosis was nothing. It was stage 1A. And so I had surgery, they took everything out, and that was it. I didn't need treatment. And I'm forever grateful for a successful surgery. And, I remember thinking when I was told that I had uterine cancer, okay, it didn't do me any good anyway. My children are adopted. I never needed it. And that was how I thought about things. I was like, take the ovaries, take the tubes, take the uterus. I don't need them. They're just organs to get sick. Bye. And, I just I felt fortunate.
Yeah.
But it was at some point, I don't know if I would have had the thought, but I started to think my kids they were adults at that time. I think my younger one was already over 20. And I remember thinking, thank God it happened then. They were independent and I didn't have to worry about would I ever become a parent. And I was like, well, I'm glad I made the decisions that I made back then. And there must have been a reason that I couldn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
So, what else would you like to share other than I want everybody to go out and get the book and read it?
Yeah. Well, my hope is that it will add some smiles and joy to your life, the book.
It's an easy read. I mean, I found myself not wanting to put it down, and I think I read it in one evening, um, and I even clicked on things to see, because you do in the Kindle edition, there are ways to click on and to see the posts and the videos. Um, I just I was energized, and it brought me joy to root for you. And
That's so nice. I love that. So then I would say, so if you're looking for some joy and inspiration to feel, I mean, because the thing that is my favorite thing about the book that people have told me is that they think about challenges differently now. And so if you feel like life is challenging and things keep happening, and like, how do you stop this cycle of bad things happening and challenging things happening? Why me? Get the book and it'll help you start thinking differently. And if I could ease some of your challenges just a little, then my job is done.
I think the book definitely will, to change the way we think about things. So instead of saying, woe is me, I have to do laundry, for example, now that's a very petty kind of thing. Instead, say, I'm so lucky I get to do laundry today. I'm lucky because I have more than one outfit that I have to wash. I don't have to walk around my house naked all day. I have a washer and dryer in my house. And I'm even fortunate enough that they're on one floor. I don't have to go up or down the stairs. How fortunate I am that I have electricity, and in my case, gas, because I have a gas dryer. How fortunate I am that I have water and money to pay for the utilities. Many people in this world don't have that.
Yeah.
By changing that little way of thinking, I get to, instead of I have to.
I love it. And practice with the small things. You said it's a petty thing, but that's how we get good at looking for silver linings with the bad things. We practice with, ow, my thumb hurts. Aren't I lucky I have a thumb? We practice with the little things. Practice with, oh, I have to do the dishes or the laundry. Practice with the daily things, like my computer is freezing up and I feel stressed out. I get to have a computer and feel stressed out today. So practice with those things. I think that's how people get through harder things easier, because they practice.
And it's a muscle, and it's a muscle to strengthen, just like your arms, your legs. The more practice. Saying no to people. Learn to put yourself first.
So good.
And saying no, if you can say no to the little things, it gets easier to say no to the bigger things. They're all things that, especially as women, we're not raised to put ourselves first or to say no. We're so worried about hurting somebody else's feelings that we forget about our own.
Yeah. Well, good. Remember yourself today.
I love that. Because thank you so much. Actually, I can.
And actually, yes, you can.
That's why I keep putting the yes. And you can. You definitely can. It's a matter of choosing yourself, choosing your words, choosing your feelings, and choosing to find the silver linings and the good in the not so good.
Yeah, because there is good and there's humor in there.
There is. There's always something or someone to laugh at.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much. I am honored. I'm honored to have you here, and look forward to meeting you in person.
Oh, so fun. Let's plan it.
Okay. Everyone, remember that I love you and I believe in you, and you can make it a great day. See you next time.
Life quakes or life transitions and the aftershocks that follow are something we all experience. A life quake can stem from the heartbreaking grief that arises from the loss of a loved one, or the disorientation felt when life suddenly shifts due to the loss of a job, relationship, identity, or health challenge. Learning to navigate these transitions with mindfulness, grace, and self-compassion is the key to finding your way back to joy, happiness, and inner peace. Advanced Grief Recovery Method Specialist and Certified Life Transition Coach, Amy Lindner Lesser, MSW, expertly supports clients to navigate their life quakes and transitions with warmth, kindness, and grace. Learning to accept support as you navigate your way through the aftershocks is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. Learn more at introspection.com. That's introspection.com.
If you liked what you heard on this podcast and want to hear more, please follow us and tell your friends. You can also find me on Facebook at Amy Lindner Lesser, Grief to Growth Life Coaching, and on LinkedIn at Amy Lindner Lesser.